here is Josh Benson's interview of Dog the Bounty Hunter he did on Twitter Spaces right after Brian Laundrie's cause of death was released. I found out on Spaces you can't do a replay on your computer, so I streamed from my phone and did a live here on YouTube. For those of us that don't want to listen to it on our phones, this is the edited version to shorten it up a bit and still keep all the main points. If you want the full version, you can watch my live stream or restream it from Josh Benson's Twitter on your phone, and I'll put the link to that in the description. I enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it.
So, I just wanted to first thank you for being a part of this. You and I connected during the Brian Laundrie case, and, a lot of the people who are in this space right now are just absolutely fascinated by Gabby Petito's story and what happened with Brian Laundrie, and this case is still open. So with that said, the big news yesterday, the autopsy coming out, Brian Laundrie shooting himself, killing himself with a gun to the head. When you heard that news yesterday, what was your reaction to that?
Well, it's an expert that said it. So, I'm not an anthropologist at all. And it's just incredible. So I would assume that, they may not announce it yet, but I'm assuming they did find one close to the body. And we just have to go with what Big Brother says, you know what I mean? But, there's so much speculation. It's not him, it is him. They couldn't really get a dental match. How could he have been just to bones like that in a month's time? A lot of questions. And so, but professionals say that he shot himself in the head and that's his remains. So, but like I said a couple times already, if he shows up somewhere out of the United States or even in the United States, because his attitude, if he's still alive, was starting to dwindle. And of course, it completely dwindled when he committed the murder. So that attitude goes with him. He will get arrested or get in trouble again. But we have to go right now with that was him. He committed suicide, and the experts all say that.
So in your opinion, do you think it could be wrong that it may not be him and he could be still on the run? Or do you think that what we're hearing now is the end of this story for at least Brian Laundrie?
Well, I can't speculate, because either way I'd be wrong. So I just have to be like you and just, bide our time. And as far as, we chase people that are alive, not people that are dead. So
right.
We just have to see what it brings. It's a tragedy. Again, I repeat that for both families, incredible, terrible tragedy. So, it's very, very sad. And it's happening all over the world right now in different states. So once we got into this, I've been into for a couple of years arresting guys that assault women and, very violent guys. That's what we've gone after.
Right.
And it's happening more and more and more, assault to women and children. So it opened a new world for us to get into this stuff.
But Dog, I think what's important to talk about too is your role of coming into the Brian Laundrie case. When I started talking with you, you had tipped us off over the fact you were looking at Fort De Soto. And when I think of that, that was a really big turning point because of the fact that we learned about the campground at that time. We learned about the fact that the family had visited the campground, and that wasn't out there. We put out a tweet that was being looked at, and you were tipped off to that. And ultimately, that put the family at the campground and made a major piece of this timeline come alive. So can you walk us through how that popped up on your radar and what happened once you hit Fort De Soto?
Well, we had to, we all figured, my team that he was still there. He wasn't in the mountains. He wasn't hiking. He didn't go to Canada. He didn't go to Mexico. Everything pointed that, he was still there. So there had to be a place where, they met. So we did, which is open to the public, a license plate check. And lo and behold, the parents, his Fort De Soto. And then we checked at the gate and they filmed you coming in. And they were there driving right through the mom, dad, and him. And then the sister got on a network and said, we haven't seen him since before he left with Gabby. So I ran her plate, and she was down there too. So now to speculate, because they found the body, is that was that his final farewell to the family? Was that, him saying goodbye and, your brother's going to go kill himself and, tell him goodbye because she brought her kids and, stayed, 2-3 days all together as a family. I don't know if you can go to your parents and say, I'm going to kill myself.
Right.
It's just really, really sad and strange.
So when you came to that point and found out that, these guys, this family did go to the campground, what was your initial reaction to that? Because the media was all over the place trying to get any kind of detail of tracking this story and any kind of nugget that they could find on, eventually where Brian went, because this was after the fact. Everybody's trying to figure out where he was at this point.
Right. Well, the parents said, they took him to the spot where the dad found the backpack, and the cops had that quarantined off while we were down there, but we hit 11 islands all the way around it. Incredible what we learned, about tracking, and not just in that area, but unbelievable stuff. Modern technology, canine dogs, drones in the sky, drones that recognize certain colors. It's just incredible. So we knew he was there in that area. So proving that he was at the camp on the 8th, the 9th, maybe 10th, blew the story. And then, of course, the way I remember it is the lawyer came up and said, we made a mistake. I guess we were there. So, and I'm not sure. I know that all this is, but allegedly Gabby's parents were going to make a comment after the autopsy came through, and the feds told them, don't say nothing yet. So when the feds tell you don't say nothing yet, that means charges pending for someone. Yeah,
and that was our discussion yesterday. A lot of dialogue on Twitter, whether or not the parents were going to speak now that we got some news. Stephen Bertolino, the attorney, said, in earlier interviews that they would be up for speaking, but now wasn't the appropriate time. That was several weeks ago. So now to see if they're going to come forward and speak would be a big deal for a lot of people, just wanting to hear what they had to say.
Well, yeah, I doubt they'll ever speak. I doubt not much. We still have a notebook that's, probably a suicide note now. You still have that was put allegedly in a baggie so it couldn't get wet. So there's a lot of things coming out still. I mean, the case is over as far as, most people are concerned because of the autopsy, but the surrounding of the case it is not over yet. The feds don't play around. And let me tell you this, many years I have worked with the feds, 40 years. Back in the day, years ago, you're in and out, boom, boom. Today, they grind the wheels of justice. One told me the other day, grind slowly. And nowadays they cover they got mileage on that pickup. They got, when they changed their tires and bought new tires, they got a bunch of evidence that's going to come out and the case, I hate to repeat it over and over, is kind of not over yet.
A lot of people want to know where that gun is. Do you think the FBI has the gun and they could obviously keep it quiet and close to the vest in the event they want to track where that gun came from, if it was used anywhere else, that sort of thing?
Well, there was a rumor in the beginning that the cops came and got the guns, or the parents gave them their guns. There allegedly was 10 and one was missing. Mm-hmm. Now, we checked with workers that worked with Brian and at a grocery store, and I said, well, what did he talk about on break, and what did he talk about? And they said hiking and guns.
Wow.
So, and these are, guys that worked, homies right with him all day. And so we figured that he was armed, because who would go out in the wilderness without a gun when he's an alleged pro? So we all know, we're sure that when you shoot yourself in the head, the gun falls down.
Right.
So I don't think the feds have to say that yet to us, the public, that, yeah, we found a gun. There was another gun, remember, found where we were searching. And, there's still questions. I've heard fans, contacting me saying, what about the other two girls that were killed around the time Gabby was? Does the ballistics from the gun at the fort match those? There's a whole, you see what I mean? This case is just
Right.
like ongoing, but now it's mostly behind desks instead of out in the swamps. And the feds, with computers put this together, and they'll be able to say and tell you anything soon.
So in your opinion, it could be a while before we hear any updates on this case.
Absolutely, because I was amazed that the anthropologist took this kind of time. You scrape the bone marrow, I've checked, out of the center of the bone, you put it under a microscope, and you match the DNA. 15 minutes. I've asked a couple of my friends that do this for a living. So to take 30 days, there's something going on.
Good
There's
point.
something going on.
That's interesting. Yeah, because this community that's so interested in this case are really wondering why we're not getting any answers and why the FBI is really staying quiet, as they do. But when it comes to details, and so few details, from a media perspective, there's nothing we can concretely report on. There's really no advancements in the case other than what we heard yesterday. So where do you see this case going now from here? Now that we heard the Brianlaundrie remains, I mean, you think people are going to go out and try to find that gun? Do you think we assume the FBI has it, or what's the next step?
Well, I don't think no one would go out looking for it. I'm sure that if there was, I guess there is a gun, that the feds probably got the gun. I would say that. So, a lot of public opinion was in on this case. The public got really, really into it because everyone loved her. And, there was a lot of things that drew all of us to Gabby, right?
Right.
And so there's parents out there, I lost a baby girl in her 20s, my firstborn daughter. There's parents out there that have lost their kids that are missing, and they're saying, why is Dog, John Walsh, Nancy Grace, why are they all doing this girl? Why don't they help me?
Right.
No. So, and then they call these people, the networks, and say, wait a minute, why are you just reporting Gabby? What about my little girl?
Mm-hmm.
So what that created is, again, we're developing a team to go after all of these that we can. Because it is kind of, Gabby just touched our heart, but then you hear a story about some other little girl or now little boy that, has been missing and gone, and just with a little effort, a detective working, bounty hunting, blah, 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 we can solve them cases. The cops are so busy, now they're defunding, they've eliminated warrants departments. The cops are so busy making sure our kids get to school safe.
Right.
Now they're shooting up the schools, and there's just not enough money to buy cops to go after these missing people. So just like bail bonds and bounty hunting, it's tax-free. So we have to go out there and depend on, people that will donate, and they do, to, so we can buy motels, food, transportation, pay snitches. I mean, there's the kid, my kids just can't go out there and feed them dinner. They got to make money, but we can do that without, bothering the taxpayers. And we also can find people. I can't now say, or can I found everybody because of Brian Laundrie, because I didn't find him.
Right. Dog, as part of what I do on this Twitter account is I just obviously keep up with the latest developments of what's happening out there. And I really have a focus on missing person cases. And that's what I think is interesting, what you just brought up, because this community online has now come together after Gabby's disappearance and case, and have kind of joined forces to use their resources to help out in these investigations, to apply pressure to police, to try to, make some headway and get Amber Alerts activated. And it's amazing to see this progress. And this is a worldwide effort. It's not just some local people trying to help out. I want to touch on that. First off, though, as covering all these stories, this jury just came back finding Travis McMichael guilty of all 9 charges, including malice murder for the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Have you been following this trial at all? And now this verdict just came in seconds ago.
And they actually just found his father guilty, Greg, guilty as well, of 8 of the 9 charges. Sorry.
So almost a clean sweep on the charges there. What do you think of that verdict?
Well, I didn't know the verdict came out because I'm
just happened. Yeah, it just happened.
Well, there you go. Unarmed man, no matter what tribe he's from, he wasn't stealing, he wasn't doing anything, and you killed a guy. Come on, man. This ain't the 60s. You're done, buddy. You're all done. I mean, we would call it, back where I was raised, a bunch of Klansmen. So, what are you doing? Come on. There's a whole difference in self-defense than that. If there's a weapon or someone's trying to get you or, putting you in harm's way, but, killing someone because you can't say it, but it's obvious.
Yeah. So Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, William Bryan have all been found guilty in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. So, wow, 2 big trials, obviously the Rittenhouse trial and now this, 2 different outcomes. How would you classify your job when for the Brian Laundrie case? Was it true you actually left your honeymoon to jump on this case to try to find Brian?
Well, before we got married, we heard about Gabby because I have friends that, youngsters that follow her. So all my people started on Twitter and, my social media, dog, look at this case. She's the same age as your daughter who got killed. And I was like, whoa, right? So Francie and I looked at it. We got married. Francie wanted to go to Florida. She's from there. And so she wanted to put her feet in the sand and in the ocean, right? So I thought, I'm going to do this for her. And so when I left Colorado, I said, the parents are in Florida for Brian, but they live 8 hours from where we're going. So we got to the place we're going. That's a long flight. And checked in the hotel. And I woke up in the morning and I Googled the parents' address again. And it was 100 miles from where we were. So I said, Francie came in and saw me. It was, what are you doing? I'm like, started to say nothing, and she goes, what are you looking at? And she looked at my phone and she goes, that's all it is? And I go, yeah. She goes, honey, let's go get him.
Oh, great.
And so then when she was in the swamp, she turned around and said, honey, I said sand and ocean, not alligators and swampland. Yeah, we're going to continue it someday, but that's why it was just too, I got so much pressure from my fans. You got to go. And I just, too, felt sorry and knew that, man, those parents, that Gabby's parents were, what are they going through? And who is the best bounty hunter in the world? And who can really find this guy? Those thoughts are in my mind and going through. You were made, you were destined to God, by God. This is your job. Get out there. That's what I feel, right? So I get out there.
Yeah, you were out there for sure. And as we talked about earlier, making some headway on the Fort De Soto side, opening up that campground, learning about those details, which definitely put some pieces on the timeline. I want to open the floor for a couple questions as we kind of go through this interview. So if you do want to talk, you can ask to be a speaker and then hold up your hand like Charity is doing there in Dina, and we'll call on you once at a time. But Charity's in the house. Charity, what do you have for dog?
Hi, do you think they can still get a time of death of when he approximately died? And do you think possibly that when his parents took him on that trip, that his dad could have possibly killed him because Brian didn't have it in him to do it himself and his dad took the gun with him?
I doubt very seriously if the father had anything to do with his killing. And they can approximate time of death, right around that area are wild boars, hogs, they call them, okay? And we've all seen how people hunt hogs, on different networks, the Hog Hunters, all that show. These hogs down there, one comes up, okay, and starts attacking you like a dog that's going to bite. And all of a sudden, 12 are surrounding you. Now, a hog will eat bones. They'll eat all the way down, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A pig is so close to our DNA that you can't find human DNA when a pig eats you. Isn't that amazing?
Mm.
That's one of the things we learned, okay, because we're so close to the pig in DNA. So my team went down after all this, and they saw drag marks from where where he went down, where it looked like, and a bunch of hog prints that the hogs had dragged the body all around. This was before the the anthropologists came out. But I don't think that, people have said, well, maybe Gabby's dad shot him. I don't think so. That guy's not a murderer, and Brian's dad's not a murderer either. But they'll soon put the timeline together and give us all a report. But like I say, it's not over. There's something going on. And we can't now get involved because there's an investigation. I don't want to be in trouble for interfering in a police investigation, because that can happen. The fugitive's not there anymore. Dog, back off.
Right.
And let me ask you about that, because a lot of people on my Twitter feed, and I know just in general, when you got involved, some were not happy to see you there, saying, Dog's in it for the publicity. Dog just wants to get his face and his name out there. Do you get that a lot? And how do you respond to that? And do you feel that what you do is interfering or could interfere with an investigation? Do you know where the limit is?
Two things, okay? I'm on television every single day on Pluto, on another network, something else, all day long, okay? Most everyone knows in America and in 13 countries who Dog the Bounty Hunter is. Publicity, thank you, but I really don't need it, okay? Because I get so much bad, you know what I mean? It's just people make up stuff. So no, that's not why. Again, 40 years I've done this. I'm the best bounty hunter in the world.
If anybody could catch him, you could.
Yes, and that's why, because I've caught, I've seen a couple articles, he caught this and that guy and this guy. I have over 10,000 arrests, and I've had some, thank God, with God's help, some really big fish that we track down, not just Andrew Luster. So when there's a big one out there and you hurt a girl, or there's something going down where America starts saying, whoa, wait a minute, I'm coming. That's what I do for a living. I'm a bounty hunter. Now, when I can, as far as interfering in police stuff, we found stuff, we turned it over to the cops. The cops spent $2 million down there searching that swamp. We worked 16, 17 days, 8, 9 hours, a group of about 8 of us. We did this tax-free. Mm-hmm. We found things out tax-free. We found information out about the case tax-free. And of course, the first ones we tell is the police.
Right.
Then we, if we have to, we tell other people. But I know what the rules are. You just have to remember, and I don't mean to say this, but 40 years, okay? That's how long I've done this. So I know what to do, what to say, how to respect the police completely, their big brother. I'm just a Quasimodo cop, but at least I'm on the totem pole. But again, I say, when these cases come in like this, and it's heartbreaking, I am on it. I can't sleep. I can't, people talk to me where I don't have to make a report.
Right.
I don't have to write stuff down.
Right.
So people talk to me a lot more than they'll talk to a lot of cops, right? Or government agencies. So I was not told to back off. If any government agency would have called me and said, Dog, right now, we're asking you first, because they have before, to please back off of this, okay? We'll let you know when we need you. If you don't back off, then the next call is the next time we see you, you're going to be in custody for interfering in a police investigation.
Got it.
So they have done that. So, and I've had to back off. So I know, I've been trained, by exactly what to do and how to do it right. And then they're like, oh, this ain't a bounty. They're not offering money. Yes, they were. Well, this ain't a bail bond. So what? I did 2 shows under citizens' right to arrest law. The bounty hunter is known for that. He is a citizen of the United States of America. If you know, most states have this law that someone is wanted on a felony, especially an aggregated one, and murder is the most aggregated there is, you may apprehend him. So all, people, again, I got 2 to 3% that hate me. We're like, oh, the sheriff's coming to get him because this ain't a bounty. He can't be doing this stuff. What about the 1,000 people before I've done it too? And I tell them, you want to ride with me or a cop? You want me to take you to jail where you can smoke and I'll talk to you about the Lord? Or do you want a cop to come get you? I have never had, well, yes, I did. One guy told me I'd rather ride with the police than you. So I called the cops. Yep.
That's interesting.
So, we know what we're doing. And the bounty hunters have been around since, for dear Lord, Abraham Lincoln signed the bill into effect in the 1800s. I mean, that's a particular part of America, okay? Some nowadays they call them private eyes or bail enforcement agents, but I'm probably the last bounty hunter that is still working alive today. A straight up bounty hunter. That's how I feed my family is, and make a living. People call me a celebrity. A celebrity is celebrated for what he does. So I am celebrated for being a bounty hunter, not a TV guy. I'm Dog Chapman, celebrated because I'm a bounty hunter.
Well, you have a lot of people here that want to talk.
You're
so
a badass.
Yeah, thank you. So
Badass dog. That's what you are.
Jerry, thanks so much for the question. Dina's been holding her hand up for a while. Dina, go ahead. So if we can just rifle through some of these questions and get going, that would be great.
Hello, Dean. This is Dina's husband. Dog, I'm a big fan of yours. Been a big fan of yours for years. I am the gentleman that gave Chris Laundrie a hug. And I've been getting a lot of backlash about it, and I don't really care about the backlash. I'm a grown man, but I do have 3 little girls, and I do have an older son. I look at this in every angle. I'm not mad at the Laundries. I'm mad at the story on how the whole thing broke down, but just curious of what you think about it.
Well, I don't want to, until the investigation is over, because I'm closer to the fire than you are. You know what I mean? I know some things that a lot of people don't know. So until they come out with what happens, I got to keep my mouth shut. But I am a father also, lost a little girl. Now, Chris Laundrie lost a little boy. So as far as the passionate side, oh my God, poor guy. But let's wait and see what happens. You know what I mean? Before we give them a green light, okay?
Let's go to J. Ray.
Hey there. Hey, Josh. Hey, Tara. Hey, Dog. 2 quick questions. I have not seen, and I could have missed it, that they confirmed that they found a gun. So my question is, if they have not found a gun, could that be why the parents have been spotted at the reserve? Are they out there looking for that gun? And my other question, Josh, can you please show Brian Enton how to record his spaces? Thank you.
But as for the gun, do you think, it's been reported by several people online. I can't confirm that the Laundries have been out in the reserve.
No, I can't either. But how do I say this right? I'll say it like this. I have heard through the grapevine there's a gun. So I would imagine, boom, shoot yourself in the head, guns down. So are you.
Yeah, you would imagine it would be very close by. I mean, it's not going to travel like even bones or any other items that he may have had out there.
No,
because it's a lot heavier, obviously.
and I think they found the spot right where, you know, he allegedly committed suicide. I think they got almost the exact spot.
All right, we got Dog the Bounty Hunter News. You've been holding your hand up for a while. Looks like a fan account here. Go ahead.
I read that Brian's parents are the ones that found either his backpack or either his body. Is that even true?
The father, the report is, okay, because you got to watch what you say. They got a good lawyer. The reports are that the parents went walking the day after the park opened up to the public in the morning, walked up a trail. The father walked in and out of the bush 3 or 4 times. The 3rd or 4th time he went into the bush, he found the backpack.
Yeah, and both sides of the trail items were found, you know, remains on one side. I believe the bag was on the other.
Correct.
And so they took that into evidence, obviously right away. They commenced with the scene. But then some of the public, once they opened up the reserve, the public went back out there and kind of scoured the area. More remains were found, but we don't know if they were human. I think some assume they were human, but I believe they were animal bones. But also the water bottle, one of the water bottles was found, and that was eventually turned into police, I know. So some things still remain, but now the question is the gun. We don't know if they have the gun or not. That's obviously the $1 million question, where that gun is at this point. Let's get to some more questions here. We have Nikki with her hand up. Go ahead.
I am curious if you are ever thinking about starting looking for missing people. I think that you jumping on this case brought even more attention to it. And yeah, I'm just curious if that would be something that you think about in the future.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, that's the answer. Absolutely. This brought me into a new realm. And we've been talking, you probably joined late, but the cops just don't have the manpower to get out there and do it. So, and let me tell you, brother, I was going to tell you about the backpack again, okay?
Yep.
So like I said, the investigation's ongoing, because.
Gotcha.
So they'll take samples from where the backpack was lying of the dirt. Then they'll take fiber samples of the backpack threads to make sure that's the same dirt.
Okay.
That has been laying there a month. All that stuff the feds will do, okay?
Right.
So, and that's how intricate they are nowadays about putting stuff together.
Yeah, I'd like to add, even the technology now from impressions of a pen on paper, even if that ink washed away, they can analyze the indentation from a pen or a marker or whatnot to help kind of tell the story. What could that be in that notebook?
Oh, exactly. Exactly. And you can see, I hate to say, but I watch NASA, the TV show, once in a while. And I'm telling you, man, they can see everything. They got so much, they know when a gun sound goes off because it hits a satellite. It takes a month or so to figure it out, but it's incredible what the feds, it is a terrible time in America to be a criminal, just like those guys in the smash and grab in San Francisco.
Right.
They caught 9 of them. It was terrible. It happened. Anyway, it's hard to be a criminal nowadays.
All right. Thanks, Nikki, for the question. Let's go up to Austin. Go ahead, Austin.
Dog, I was just wondering, obviously you've been on a lot of unique hunts. I was wondering where this one stacks up when you look back at all the hunts that you've been on.
Good question.
Well, I learned more on this hunt than any other hunt, okay? I learned partial Spanish on the Andrew Lester hunt. I mean, there's always something on a big hunt like this, and that's what I mean when a lot of people know about it and people are helping you. That's a big hunt. I just learned a lot of things for the next hunt. So I think it's I learned the most off of this hunt than any other one in my career.
Awesome. Arcade, go ahead.
Well, I know you probably heard this already, but what was your initial reaction when you heard about the suicide?
Well, we'd heard that since the beginning from the father. The father kept saying that he had killed himself. And I think the mother said it too. And I know for sure family members, I can't tell you which ones, told me the same thing. He's dead. So all through the Laundrie side of the investigation, they were all saying he had committed suicide. So when they found out that there was a body, there was a backpack, when I found all that out, I'm like, oh my God, how did they know?
Right.
You know, they were adamant about it.
Thanks for the question, Arcade. I want to keep going with Justice up in the corner. Justice, go ahead.
Hey, thank you. So I am wondering, there's been a lot of conjecture about whether or not the ballistics will come back and show that Brian may have been involved in the deaths of Kylan and Crystal in Moab.
So your question would be, would he be willing or interested in coming out to Moab to work on that case, correct?
Yeah, and then also what you guys know, like would the FBI have already released whether or not the ballistics were, you know, similar to the bullets that killed Kylan and Crystal? Would we know that?
As far as having the right to know, it all depends on who asks the feds the question.
Right.
If you don't ask them, like a news reporter, you know, the news reporter would say to the head investigator, of the case, did you guys do a bullet and you know, did you do ballistics from the gun found? And then I think we'll get an answer. As far as coming there, I looked at this case a lot. Now, this is where the fine line of justice is between me and what I do for a living. If someone has a warrant for their arrest, a felony warrant in America, I'm coming. If there's not a warrant, then I'm interfering in a police investigation. I'm not a detective. I'm not Sherlock Holmes. You know what I mean? With Brian, I had a warrant. I had to wait until, they weren't going to put out a warrant at all. And then finally, the feds were like, I thought the feds could get him on interstate flight, going back and forth. And then they come up with a better idea. No, he used a credit card. As soon as I got the hard copy in my hand of that warrant, I'm on it. I was on it. So I would love to come up there and find out. I think if it's not Brian, it's a local person also. Absolutely. And, but if there's a warrant put out on someone or an interested party or a missing person, then I can come. But I just can't, get involved because then the cops get mad at me.
Yeah, why don't you explain? That's an interesting point you just made. Why don't you explain what the differentiator is? Once it reaches felony status, that's why you get involved. What is the tipping point there, and why felony versus non-felony?
Well, the law, okay? The law says if it is a felony, and Chicago is the greatest one wide open. If you see him doing a felony or it is, there's a felony warrant. And I always go, knowing means I got a copy of the warrant in my pocket, a certified copy, which is easy to get, then it's okay. Citizen's right to arrest. If there's not a warrant, now PIs licensed can go out there and investigate. Say a family member of the girls hire a PI to check, okay? They can do that. Bounty hunter is not a PI. As far as in that area, there's no warrant yet. So me personally, with the liability and, I don't want to go to jail and I don't want cops being mad at me. So, no, I can't do nothing yet.
Good question. That was a great question.
And I just wanted to ask real quick. I thought it was really weird that, first of all, there was no surveillance at all in Moab. Like they haven't been able to pull any cameras from anywhere, which is kind of weird. And but also, did anybody see Brian? Because I'm still stumped at there was so much coverage on his house, like nobody saw him leave. Like, did he? You know what I mean? I just can't understand how nobody had eyes on him. Like, was he really there? Did anybody see him there? I know the neighbors.
The police saw him there. The police saw him there, so that's...
when they served him and they handed him the attorney card, they actually saw him?
The police have said that they saw him.
But because they're...
Well, no, that was Roberta.
Right, but...
that was at the end. That was different time.
Once the cops couldn't move on it until the warrant came out. When they went up to the door and said, "Where's your son?" The parents allegedly said, "We're not saying." "Well, we know he's here. We want to talk to him." "Nope, you're not coming in," because there wasn't a warrant yet. Once the warrant hit, the cops hit their house.
Right.
And searched everywhere. Took phones, took, all kind of things they took out of the property.
Hi, Dog. I'm listening from Aberdeen, Scotland, and I just wondered if there was any word of a new TV show, because we really miss seeing you on our televisions over here.
Well, we have been working over a year and a half on a series. I have a lot of footage that we still bounty hunt, and we just did have a wedding, so I have a lot of footage. So yes.
Yeah, well, we'll be excited to see that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Linda, thanks so much. Great. Let's go to up in the top, Cassandra Rose. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for letting me on, Josh and Tara. I just have a quick question for Dog. As you said, you had heard through the grapevine that a gun was located. Is there anything else that you can tell us that you may have heard that has not been released to the public yet?
Oh, you are very akamai. That means smart. There's a lot of things that I speculate in my mind tells my mind. So there's a lot of things I know that I ain't saying nothing. Yes, that's a very good question. I need her to, does she need a job? Tell her.
Yeah. Cassandra digging in on you here.
I'll take it.
Good question, Cassandra. Thanks so much. Martine, you there?
Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if Roberta and Chris already knew that their son Brian was dead when they went to pick up the vehicle that was left there.
Well, that's a good question, and only they can answer that. I don't know.
A lot of these questions are tough because it's, we're not obviously the fly on the wall when these discussions were had or what they knew. So it's very difficult to assess, what we can and cannot say and what we even know at this point. So
correct. Good question, though. But
that was a great question, though. Don't have an answer for it, but thanks for asking it. Let's go to Daisy. Daisy, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Josh. Hi, Tara. I have a question for Dog. So I hope this wasn't asked yet, but with the De Soto campground trip, whenever the footage picked up that 3 people entered the park and 2 people left the park, what is your take on that? Because I know a lot of people are speculating on, where was Brian if he didn't leave with his parents coming back from that trip.
So how do I say that I lied without saying I lied?
Okay.
The truth comes out.
It's like my ankle got hurt and I went home.
Right.
Because I was putting so much pressure on, I thought if I back off right now and go home. So I didn't go anywhere. The heat went off, okay? News reporters are like, well, Dog's leaving, we're digging out too. So a lot of them left, but I didn't go anywhere. And then the next day, during my plan, the autopsy report hit the air. So heat came on a lot more than I could put when they found out Gabby had been killed, strangled. The camera didn't get them leaving, but I figured if I say they left Brian down there, that they would say, no, we brought him with us. And that's exactly what they said.
Dog, and on that note, Dog, you spent a lot of time at Fort De Soto. Matter of fact, the majority of the time on this case you spent there, the FBI continued in the reserve. What was your thinking the whole time to stay in Fort De Soto? And were you getting kind of indications that he could definitely be there?
Well, we had a lot of locals. Okay, so when you go there, you go find, it's just like this. You see a guy at the lake and he's catching all the fish. You walk up to him and say, hey, brother, what kind of bait you using? So when you go to a town, you find the locals that know that area like a book. So we found trackers that knew the area and said, Dog, he could very easily be right here. Each island, in the center of the island, trees grow, which means that the rest is all thick. I forget the name of it. It's an endangered species plant.
Mangroves?
Yes. Thick. And right in the center of most of the islands was, you know, a place to put maybe 2 or 3 cars, and it was dry. So each one of those islands is a fugitive's dream. Then one of them had natural water. There were so many fish and crab in the water. It was, you know, at low tide was knee deep, at high tide was waist deep or a little higher. So there, he could have lived off the land like really easy. And again, the feds wouldn't let us in to that one area, and you know, and it was so dangerous. I had talked to a couple feds that went in there, and they said the alligators or crocs, whatever they are there, were just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it was very dangerous. And I'm not taking Francie down in there, and or any of my friends that I met down in there, because we're not prepared for that.
Right. So your team was pretty built up from local talent, right? I remember that you talked about how you grabbed people locally to build your team out.
Yes, we had all ex-law enforcement, or reason they were ex is because the feds retire you in your early 50s. That's it, you're out, which is really stupid when our Supreme Court can live to be 100. So those guys, those age, you just start learning knowledge and wisdom, the Bible says. So I had an ex-Marine, I had an ex-Army guy, I had a cop that was his weekend off duty, he went with us. We had another ex-homicide detective. We had we had the essentials, is what I call them.
Kara, go ahead.
Hey guys, been great watching all of you. I've been following since the beginning. This is kind of follows the Fort De Soto thing. And I try to stay away from conspiracy stuff, but does anybody have any idea why that gun being found, obviously intended to be weighted down and hidden, it just coincides? Is it just coincidence that it happened right around all of this?
Yeah, so let me touch on that, because I just reached out to the Pinellas County Sheriff yesterday, and I said, look, where's the investigation on this? I've been staying in touch with this guy for weeks. And he says the investigation's almost wrapped up, and we should have one more report to finish, and it looks like another day. So a holiday weekend, probably Monday, we should have the answers. So to me, it sounds like the investigation of that gun is finished, and they're just finalizing the paperwork. And, what is strange about it, right off the shores of Fort De Soto campground, a fisherman pulls up a gun that's weighted down. I mean, everybody's mind immediately went to this Laundrie case.
Just between JB, between you and Dog, anybody have any, personal thoughts that are, which, like I said, we don't want to get conspiracy theory, but also
Sure.
Well, here's my thoughts, okay? I'm not sure that that's the gun that used to kill the 2 little girls, okay? But they found 9 bodies looking for Brian.
Mm-hmm.
No, my God. You find 9 people dead looking for...
That's
how
insane.
many more are dead out there?
Right.
And it just so happened to be where they took a quick one-night stay.
Right, exactly right. So... finding a gun like that, maybe the ballistics belong to a different murder.
And that's what I'm hoping. I mean, I'm hoping they'll at least tie it to something so we get some answers from that.
Well, usually when they weigh it down and tie it down, allegedly it was in a bag that Brian worked at the same store.
Publix, yeah.
Yep.
Shut up. I didn't know that.
So it gets... it's somebody needs, you and me, brother, we need to write a book about this one, because again, 9 bodies. I mean, so things were just popping up everywhere. So I'm not the least bit suspicious or amazed that there's going to be more stuff pop up. You just watch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Kara, thanks so much for the question. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, you were bold to assume. Her hands.
You were bold to assume. Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, Dog. I've been a big fan for 15 years, so I just want to say that first. But I was curious if you think that Brian went to where he went to unalive himself purposely to not be found, or if you think we're going to hear something about a confession in the notebook they found.
Okay, so I think there'll be a confession and a suicide note in the notebook they found. Brian, again, through a family member, I got the information that Brian played with and loved gators. He knew that area very, very good where his body was found. He knew, everyone knows, the locals know about the hogs. Remember I told you they'll eat you, they'll attack you. I'm in the bush with them and they're like, you guys, let's stick together. There's a bunch of hog prints. And I'm like, it's all right. And they're like, oh no, dog, these hogs here will attack. So Brian knew that area very good. The water went down and blah, blah, blah. The water went down 4 inches a month. It didn't go down no 5 feet or 4. So it was basically, 3 or 4 inches less than when it happened when Brian killed himself. So he knew right where, maybe the gators would feed off of him or the hogs would eat him. I think he planned not only his suicide, if this is true, but he planned the exact spot to do it.
Okay. I got time for 2 more. We'll go Miss Jess and we'll do LLN. So thanks everybody for the questions, but we want to keep our time on point here. Miss Jess, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I have a question for Dog. I was just wondering if you feel like this case is now closed, or if you feel like there could be the possibility for more arrests, like thinking of Brian's parents, like did they know when he was coming back what he had already done and things like that?
I don't know. I know in the state of Florida that this is a crazy law, but it's the law. If your child commits a crime, not your husband or wife, your child, you do not have to report it to the cops, and you are not charged with aiding, abetting, this and that. Now, that's the Florida state law. If the federal law supersedes that state law, then the parents got a problem.
That's interesting.
So I don't know what the feds, are going to do. You know what I mean?
Well, and we don't know what's left for evidence to come to the surface here and what they're going to come out with. Obviously, what's in the notebook, obviously a phone could be out there, the gun could be out there. So there's still many pieces to the puzzle to try to keep this investigation tightened up.
Exactly.
All right, LLN, go ahead. Last question.
Hey, Josh, thanks. 2-part question. First part's for you. Knowing what we know from the medical examiner's statement yesterday that the records will not be released to the public and the media, do you think there are, to what Jess said, more charges imminent with that statement?
Well, what's interesting, yesterday I was talking with JB, and JB had reached out to the medical examiner's office and said that, the announcement's not going to come from us. So that threw me off right away, that essentially we did hear from the medical examiner. So that was strange to me. The fact that they said they weren't going to release the report, I haven't heard that. So if that's the case, that's even more interesting. But as Dog and I were talking about earlier, I just think there's going to be very few answers, if any, for a long period of time while the FBI continues investigating what happened to Gabby and obviously what happened with Brian. It doesn't close the case in any way, shape, or form. And I think it only ramps up now from the lab perspective, as Dog mentioned, behind the desk. I think this is where now we just wait and see what they're going to put together. Dog, I don't know. Do you think we're going to hear an update anytime soon, or at any point where they solve this crime?
Yes, I think they will. I think there'll be an update because, like I said, now they're putting it all together. And they may not have to tell the general public, but they got to tell Gabby's parents. Gabby's parents can file a motion, a discovery, and I want to see the whole case.
Right.
So sooner or later, it's going to come out. And I think the feds know, of course, that. And they're going to go ahead with, so that the parents don't have to do that and just tell it like it is very soon.
And then just my second part for Dog. Dog, thank you for doing this. Knowing what we know now, do you think it was Brian's intention to ever flee authorities, or do you think the suicide plan where it happened was the plan all along?
Well, it you know, what I heard, again, you know, we did a very thorough investigation, and Brian never acted other than a gentleman. Hear what I'm saying? He never showed any kind of this. Slugging her, slapping her, scratching her. He didn't show that. It started to deteriorate, as you saw, when the Utah cops pulled him over, because he had scratched her, put his hand over her mouth or something. But everyone close to both families told me he was a gentleman. So I think that he, you know, tried to quiet her down and choked her and killed her. Of course he did. Now, did he tell the parents? He was very close to his parents. I think, I would assume, I've got 13 children. One of my sons, Tucker, robbed somebody 20 years ago and with a fake gun and taped him up. He got 20 years in Hawaii prison. And I asked Tucker, did you do it? And he said, yes. And I said, Tucker, you're going to leave this house right now. And I'm sorry, but Daddy cannot help you. The cops called me and said, have you seen him? I said, yep, I seen him yesterday. Well, what'd you tell him? I said, I told him to run, but I'm not going to chase him. And the detective said, Dog, we're not going to ask you to chase your own son. I said, thank you very much. 3 days later, they caught him.
Wow.
So I would assume, being a parent, that Brian told his parents what he did. But I don't think he said, I'm going down here to kill myself. Maybe he said that. And of course, parents would say, oh my God, don't do this. You know, you could probably get an involuntary manslaughter out of Wyoming, even though Wyoming is a death sentence. You kill someone in Wyoming, you're going to the chair. So I don't think they agreed and said, yeah, that's a good idea. Go shoot yourself in the head. Leave your backpack where we can find it.
Right.
I don't think that's the conspiracy. I don't think that's the anything that happened. You know what I mean? But I think they were very deeply involved, knowing that he had killed her. And, you know, on a murder like that, a lot of parents would run to the phone and call 911 and turn their kids in. But I know some, obviously, as we see, that even if it's murder, they're not going to turn in their children.
Right. And, you know, the big view on this is there's no winners. We have two families now that have not won a thing. They're both in terrible pain dealing with this scenario that happened. And, you know, domestic violence, we've talked a lot about it on my Twitter profile and through Twitter in general, is a big problem. It's a big issue. And these are things that need to be addressed and looked at. And obviously, this case specifically, how this all plays out, we don't know yet. Definitely no closure at this point, and still evidence out there we need to learn about. So to all these questions and speakers out there, guys, thanks so much for these questions. These were awesome. And to Dog, I just want to leave Dog with the last word. What do you have planned? I know you have a lot of fans out there. You have a lot of people interested in what you're doing. And, you know, it's admirable that you fight for these cases. And to talk about missing person cases, I think that's going to prick a lot of ears, because people want to know how they can be of help and how they can help solve some of these missing person cases. So what's next for you?
Well, we're good. You know, this case has brought us to a new realm, a new lesson in life. And we're going to go after guys that have warrants, girls that have warrants, or mostly men that have abducted missing children. And or if they're listed missing, we can look for them. So we purposely left our call dog, 1-800, I think it is call dog, or 866, I forget right now. We left that on. I'm getting still calls every day. So this has begun a new chapter in my life. And we're going to dedicate forever this part of Dog's bounty hunting to Gabby. You know, this is the last quarter in my life if we were playing a football game, and I'm going to score as many touchdowns as I can. So this, you know, this tragedy is unbelievable, and I'm not going to just let it go to be a tragedy.
Wow, that's great to hear. And, you know, it sounds like you don't want to stop. You're not going to quit anytime soon.
Oh, no. Dear Lord, my kids want to hunt.
That's great. And as far as the entertainment side of things, any new shows coming out, anything you can tell us? I know you have fans overseas. We've had a couple people overseas chime in today. They want to know where they can see you. Obviously, you're on TV on different channels, but anything new on that side of things?
Well, we've done, for 20 years, my PR manager says, you are the dog with 9 lives. So I don't know how to do anything else. I can kind of leave it like that. It's all in God's hands. And it's getting more exciting. So I absolutely have got plans for the future, yes, to be back.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate the time today, Dog. Thanks so much for the help during the Laundrie case.
Thank you,
keeping us updated. And, I'd love to keep in touch with you and follow up with when you have some new things you're working on.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you very much. Thanks, Twitter, everybody.